Hello, welcome. I am glad you're here. Today we are going to do the Newbie Booktube tag. As my usual, I have notes. I'm doing it in two parts. So I only have 7 questions this time. I'll do the remaining questions next time. So let's get started. Question 1, why did I start a Booktube channel? I discovered Booktube about 1.5 years ago. It got me out of my reading slump. It got me excited to read again. It really ignited something in me. And I ended up doing that whole rabbit hole and FOMO thing. And I started reading what everybody's talking about. And there are like the same 12 books that everybody's talking about in a small chunk of time. And then something else comes out and then something else comes out. But that's the nature of the beast, right? And that's fine. And I started putting those books on hold. I started reading some of those books. And they just weren't always, they weren't the right book for me. And I want everybody to love whatever book they're reading. And I will always be in support of that. But they weren't the right books for me. And it took me a little while to realize that those aren't the books that I usually read. Partly because I have big book phobia. Seriously, I really do. Also, I am a book fair mom. I've said this before in my intro video. I am a book fair mom. When my kids were in elementary school, I started helping out at the school book fair. I never stopped, and it has been 16 years now. In fact, I've got another book fair coming up in December. Other than Colby Sharp, and if I remember, I'll put his link to his channel below. Nobody else is really covering middle grade books. And that's what I've always been around. That's what I read to help get the kids read. My bookshelves were filled with middle grade books for my kids, but I read them too so that I could talk about them with my kids. And I'm very happy that both my kids are readers. It also made me very good at the book fair because I knew what the books were about. I could talk to the kids and say, well, this happens and then this one's this, and the parents loved that. So other than Colby Sharp, some booktubers do a middle grade March where they read middle grade books in March. But other than that, that wasn't really being covered, and those are the books that I really like. I already give book recommendations at the book fair, which we were doing. Most of the time we only do 2 book fairs a year. But at one point we were doing them in the middle school also. So we were doing 4 book fairs a year. Like I said, those were the books that I was around, those were the books that I was reading. And so I was giving my opinions anyway at the book fair. Or I'm also that parent that will talk to you when you're at Barnes and Noble and say, well, what did you read last? Or what are you looking for? You know, I don't ever pretend that I work there, but I am that person that will talk to you at Barnes and Noble. Question 2 is, what are some fun and unique things that you can bring to Booktube? I don't know about fun, but again, nobody's really covering middle grade. Other than middle grade March, there are quite a few booktubers who do middle grade March, and in March only, they will read a few middle grade books. I will be covering middle grade books in every one of my videos. And you can always fast forward if that's not what you're interested in, because I will also talk about young adult, and I will also talk about many of the books that are really popular, and hopefully find some ones that nobody's talking about that I think are really good. In fact, I have one coming up. I think part of the reason I like middle grade so much and young adult is because they have a quicker start. They have high action. They are shorter in length because that big book phobia thing. And I figure if I can suspend my reality for any fantasy book or even a young adult book, I can certainly do it for middle grade books. I should define what middle grade is. Middle grade are what a lot of people would call chapter books, and they are meant for kids under the age of 12. At the age of 12, kids usually go on to young adult, 12 to 14. They basically have characters that are 14 years old or younger, and that counts as middle grade. I will always try to turn off my adult/mom brain when I'm reading a middle grade book because I know I'm not the target audience. There have been a couple of times when I can't do that, and I say that right out. So I will be very honest about that. But I will have young adult and I will have adult, the same books that everybody else is talking about. And again, like I said, maybe some other ones that you haven't heard of or are less popular. I am opinionated, and I will give you my honest opinion about the book. And I will try to never do any spoilers. I will give you my honest self. I will be who I am. Question 3. What am I most excited about for this channel? And honestly, it's meeting people. It's really going to be about meeting people and talking to them about books. My daughter is a reader. She reads what I don't. So I enjoy talking to her about books, and she can spoil the whole book for me because then it doesn't really matter because I will never read her kind of books. And that's fun. I really enjoy that. And then I get to tell her about the ones that I'm reading. I don't know if she enjoys it, but she puts up with it. And then, of course, it's going to be about reading the stories. I love what the authors are putting out. It's amazing the worlds that get built and the stories that get told. And I get to go there and it changes me. And I love it. I love the act of reading. Question 4, what would I ask my favorite booktubers? Nothing really, nothing yet. I have a few questions, but it kind of leads into my next question. So let's do that one, which is, I'm going to read it. What challenges do you think starting a booktube channel will be hardest to overcome? All of it. And here's what I think I would ask my favorite booktubers. I have never been on social media. I've never once been on Instagram. I confiscated my son's phone and for 24 hours when he was in high school. And that's the only time I've ever seen any TikTok videos. I was on Facebook when it was fairly new. I just never saw the point of it. I think I had too many cat photos from a friend. I used it to say happy birthday to friends for a couple of years and then I just stopped. So I have never really been interested in technology and using it. Being on social media, it's just not who I am. So I do wonder, like, how quickly will I be able to grow my channel? I feel like everybody who's already been out there in the world, then they start a channel and they've got all those people that will come and watch their channel. So I do think that that's going to be a hindrance for me. I might start those channels soon. We'll see. I don't want to overload my plate yet. So we'll see. Other things to overcome will be I have a slight stutter. I tend to stumble over my own words. I try to edit some of it out, but I also want to be my true self. So there's some of that. I'm very awkward when I speak sometimes. So that also I don't have a lot of self-confidence. And this is also very new to me. Editing is very new to me. My laptop is extremely old, sometimes conks out. So it's all of that. And then, of course, actually reading the books because I am really quite a slow reader. I'm working on physically reading more because I'm hoping that I will become a faster reader, but it hasn't really changed all that much in the last 20 years. So I don't know how true that'll be, but I am working on it. So that's going to be a problem. I want to make sure I have content for everybody. Question number 6 is, where do I read? Right here. That's why I'm kind of scooched over a little bit. This is my blanket. I sit right here. My husband's blanket over there. He sits right there. TV's right behind you. Books are right there. This is my world. I sit and read here when I physically read. I have no other place that I physically read a book. I've tried reading in bed. It doesn't work for me. I read a page maybe and then I fall asleep. I wake up hours later and the book is smashed and the lights are still on. Doesn't work. The other place I read is if I have an audiobook, I will be at my jigsaw puzzle or I walk back and forth. It is 55 feet from one end of the house to the other. I walk back and forth, or I'm getting housework done. That's my usual. I get a lot of steps in that way. I get my housework done. But most of the time, I'm right here physically reading a book. Or I'm reading it while I'm listening to it, which is what I'm working on. I'm hoping that will help me become a faster reader. I don't use Kindle. I did read one book on my phone because that was the only way I could get it. It's only on Kindle and I managed to get it through, I think I got it through Libby. And that was torturous for me. The screen is fairly big on my phone and it was only, I don't even know how many pages, definitely less than 100. And it took me a week to read it. I just couldn't stand reading it on my phone. And I know that's not the same as a Kindle or any other kind of device. I just did not enjoy it. Question number 7. What kind of books do I like to read? It's going to be easier for me to say what I don't read. My daughter reads contemporary romance and I do not like contemporary romance. I don't really know why, other than I don't really like the spice. I don't know. I just have never really, I love romance. I love a historical romance or fantasy romance. I just don't do contemporary romance. I really don't like slice 'em and dice 'em books. The horror. I'm kind of getting into very beginner level thrillers. Very beginner. That's probably the extent of what I would do, is very beginner level thrillers. Other than that, I read everything, and I read everything. I loved all the adult books, historical, fantasy, mystery. A lot of those will have, like I just read a mystery contemporary that has a romance in it, and I liked it. So I loved young adult. I was like everybody else who seems to be out there in Booktube, loved the young adult dystopian age. I think that really drove me to read a lot back then. And so I love young adult, and I love middle grade books. I really, really do enjoy middle grade books. There are some amazing stories out there. I really wish you would give them a try if you're not into middle grade books. But beyond that, I've already talked about a few picture books. I love picture books. Picture books can cover just about any topic. It's really amazing, and I wish I had written down some author names. If you ever want me to talk about picture books, I will gladly do some videos on picture books. I have read more than 2,000 picture books. Most of those were during the pandemic when I was doing this challenge of reading 100 books, 100 picture books a month. Slash readers, which I'll get into. And I had so much fun doing that. And there are some amazing, amazing picture books out there. So I mentioned readers. I use the word readers. They are often called easy readers or early readers. But if it's not easy for you, or if you're older and it's not early, those can be terms that make you feel less than you. So I use emergent reader, which is what's kind of coming out. Actually, I really just say readers. I love readers. I have read more than 300 different readers. Readers are, most people would think of Mo Willems, like the Piggy and Elephant books, or I Don't Let the Pigeon Something books, which are great. I love his books. Or Dr. Seuss books, Cat in the Hat. But there's so many books out there more than that. I think it was last month, I was talking to this lady. We were both at the checkout stand, the self-checkout at the library, and she had 30 or 40 readers, and they were all Dr. Seuss or Mo Willems, which are fine. But I told her there are so many others out there. If either of us had had the time, or if I guess both of us had had the time, I would have taken her back to the children's section and given her at least a dozen other books to pick out from there. If you ever want a video on readers, I will gladly do that. I don't know who my audience is going to end up being. I have a friend who insists that it's going to be parents who want to find books for their kids. It may be the typical, I want to read books and know about books. I have no idea who my audience is going to end up being. So it's up to you to tell me what you want, and we'll go from there. Though I am still going to always do, I will always do middle grade books. And that was the 7 questions for this video. There are 4 or 5 more questions. I think there's 4 more questions that I will do next week. As I said, if you want certain content, tell me about it. I'll tell you honestly if I'm going to do it or not. Again, I love picture books. I love readers. I can do one video to highlight those if you're interested. Let me know if you have kids, if you want me to talk about that kind of thing, or if you're a teacher. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep on going and doing what I'm doing and enjoying it. I am having so much fun being a reader again. It feels good to call myself. I did not feel like I was a reader when I was in my reading slump because it was 5.5 years long. I did not call myself a reader. It feels like I'm a reader now, and I'm happy. I'm so happy. I'm having so much fun. So I will see you next time. You want to come in for those questions. Those questions are, the questions that I'm going to cover next time are: why do I love reading? What book or series got me into reading? When did I start reading? And the bookshelf tour. So I'm going to do that next time. Thank you for hanging out with me. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you next time. Bye.